All right, it is Sunday, July 24th, 2022. Um, I'm going to start off with anger. We got a mega meeting going on. It's called the Freedom Fest, and it's going to be taking place later on tonight. And I'm going to stay away from servicing anybody over there as a rideshare driver, just simply because, well, we all know what they're about. They're all about bitching, complaining, looking down at everything, and all that does is just derive hate out of people. Well, it derives anger, which can lead to acts of hate. Speaking of act of hate, Friday, the man accused of punching an Asian woman who was 67 years old more than 100 times, causing her a brain injury, is indicted on hate crimes charges. The guy is Tamel Esco. He's 42 years old, and he's got charges for hate, multi charges to be honest. And although he pleaded not guilty, he's being held without bail, which means this guy's going to actually assume a fair trial and stuff, despite the fact that he's been caught on surveillance doing nothing but attack this little lady. Now, most of the hate towards Asians has been towards Chinese people because of the Chinese Communist Party and the crap that they're doing to their people and everybody else around the world. Here's the thing, the little old lady that the guy attacked and punched 100 times, she was a Filipino. She's a Filipina. Philippines aren't doing anything CCP dangerous. You know, Philippines are not the threat. Hell, the Chinese aren't even the threat. It's the douchebags that are running China. They're the threat. As I've stated throughout previous posts, stop hating Asians. You're hating the wrong people. You know, to name just a couple in it. Now, I'm not going to go through that because I usually don't have much time on YouTube the way I do on my podcast on Anchor. But I just want to say, hate is just too much negativity with it. It leads you to hating everybody, including the wrong people, attacking defenseless people. And it just sucks. And I just have to throw that out there, that those of you that are anger driven, you still suck. Those of you that believe that you just can't contain yourself and that you have to do this for whatever, lash out for whatever reason, there's no excuse, and there's no excuse for you either. Okay, now that I got that off of my chest, here's something that I found out on a website. I'm not even sure if it's a real one because I've never heard of it. Oilprice.com. This writer, Svetlana Paraskova, wrote an article. Exxon plans another 35 wells offshore Guyana. Guyana, for those of you who don't know, is a little country in between Brazil and Venezuela, and it's very tiny. It looks like the size of Illinois, to be honest. Like any one of our states, our country state. Now, here's a report. In February this year, Exxon started production at Guyana's second offshore oil development on Stabroek Block. That's in a town called Georgetown. Bringing total production capacity to more than 340,000 barrels per day, BPD. Okay, floating production, storage, and offloading, FPSO. Those are the categories that these fall on. 220,000 barrels per day. And the Liza phase, number 1 and 2. I don't really know what the Liza phase is, but that's what it's entitled. 120,000 barrels per day, totaling up to that 340. That's what took place in February. Now, in April of this year, Exxon approved its fourth offshore project in Guyana at a place called Yellowtail, which is expected to produce 250,000 barrels per day by 2025. 250,000 barrels alone. I mean, that speaks volumes. By 2027, 2 years after 2025, Exxon plans to produce more than 850,000 barrels per day from Guyana's offshore. Okay. When you got that much coming just off of one shoreline from one state, you know that it's not just Exxon, it's British Petroleum, it's Shell, it's Chevron. All of these companies are drilling various places around the world. You really start to think as to why in the hell are we paying so much for gas prices just because we're cutting out Russia, who's not even selling Russian oil. They're selling stolen East Ukrainian oil. They're selling Crimean oil. They're selling Bosnia, Kosovo, Croatian oil that they stole from those countries. There really is no excuse. There really is no excuse for these companies to be jacking up the prices and hurting us just because they don't want to pay. And again, I'm sticking with this, just because they don't want to pay their fair share of taxes in accordance to the Biden wealth tax plan. Biden says everybody making $400,000 a year and more has to pay taxes. That plan still has not even been put into effect. I mean, it got shot down the two times that it got brought up in Congress and the Senate, and any legislation approval meetings, any meeting that can prove it through legislation. None of them got passed. It got shot down every time. And yet still, these corporations and companies, because of the simple fact that it even made it to Congress, they start price gouging and everything, and they still refuse to open up the refineries that they shut down during the pandemic 2 years ago, and they still refuse to look at any new projects where they were going to be building brand new refineries. Sorry about that. It's the beginning of my day. But yeah, to top it all off, they're going to Congress trying to get these free bills passed to where it comes off our tax-paying dollars for them to open up refineries that are already built. And wanting the pipeline open. The thing that loses a third of its oil every year because of cracks, breaks, and leaks. A third. It's messed up. And then to top it all off, if this is accurate, what I'm reading off of oilprice.com, despite the fact that it's brought on by a Paraskova, I mean, one could say, oh, it's a plot, it's something there. It's just the Russians trying to mess everything up. I don't see it, but nevertheless, if this is true that Exxon already started production in Guyana, coming up with 340,000 barrels, which would be half of what the pipeline brings, 600,000 barrels. And still, that's enough to actually keep the prices low and still keep all of us fueled. With an extra 250 coming by 2025, 250,000 barrels per day coming by 2025, 2 years after that, we'll be up to 850,000 barrels per day. just out of South America. You know, and this is what's going on with Exxon, the major company. You know, while Biden, the current president, went down to Venezuela, went down to South America to try to work a deal with anybody. Hey, why don't you come on and produce? Let's make a deal here, and all this good stuff. But of course, they said no, because we don't want to do humanitarian rights, and we want you to take the migrants that we kicked out of our country. Okay. Biden is done what he can. There is no excuse, and now Exxon is revealed. It was just one company, but you know the others are doing it as well. Still with their offshore drilling in foreign lands, foreign seas, and they're coming in to America with all of this oil, and still telling everybody else that we have to pay high prices because it's Biden's fault. Look, I'm sorry. There is no excuse anymore for these companies to be playing these games on us, to be playing these power plays, inexcusable power plays on the people of the United States of America. They got no excuse. They've got no excuse. They can't pass the pipeline to be reopened. The pipeline leaks a third of its oil, destroying our land, destroying our water. There's pipelines underneath lakes, one of our Great Lakes, to top it all off, and they're breaking as the earth shifts and moves, and they're leaking, and they're going up into polluting our water. They're destroying our lands. They're causing all sorts of problems. But even still, with that pipeline closed, as I could see, as I'm now sharing with you off of oilprice.com, Exxon plans another 35 wells offshore Guyana. 600,000 barrels per day, 340,000 of it, which is half, is coming to America from South America through Exxon, who's complaining about not being able to open the pipeline that they are not taking care of. All those leaks and breaks, they're not rescued and stopped, and they're not repaired by any of the engineers of the gas companies. They're not discovered. They're discovered by accident. They're discovered by hikers. They're discovered by drones, people flying those drones and taking photographs. They're being discovered by aerial tourists who are taking the airplane rides, airplane tour rides. Those are the people that are discovering the cracks and the breaks and the leaks that's contaminating and polluting our water and our lands. The gas companies are not doing it. The gas companies don't give a rat's ass. They got the pipeline started, and they're sending it down from Trans-Canada Pipeline to Illinois and here in the Lone Star State of Texas. With all the leaks destroying land and water on the way down. And to top it all off, all those breaks and leaks and stuff, again, it amounts to a third of what is being lost out of the 600,000 barrels a day. So we're not really getting 600,000 barrels then. We're not getting 600,000 barrels actually. When you're losing an entire third of it, there should be no reason for this administration or any other presidential administration to permit the companies to have that pipeline, to have access to that pipeline. Not by a long shot. Biden stopped that. So there is no excuse for these companies. Biden asked the countries to work with humanitarian rights and equal pay for equal work and all this stuff. And those countries in South America and in the Middle East told Biden to go F himself. So if there's any oil being drilled out of those same countries through the corporations, through the American corporations like ExxonMobil and Shell and Chevron and all the others like British Petroleum. It means they're being done through the cruelest of humanitarian expenses, at the expense of the people with their rights violated and not just simply not upheld. They're bringing in oil from all these countries without any stability coming in from there, and more than likely they're bringing oil from all those countries after those drills are destroying the land and contaminating the waters in those countries. And we're still having to suffer the price gouging because the current administration is not letting them do that here in the U.S. And what more do you want, people? What more do you want? You want to see some death and all that and everything? You should have been paying attention back when people were actually getting sick before the ban. That's not our problem. Those of us that have been paying attention. These companies, these gas companies and fuel companies in the oil and fuel industry, they're getting less and less excuses to be punishing us and lashing out at us as this time goes by. They're getting out of no excuse, so it's going to be a matter it's not going to be long before we make that decision. We don't want to discredit or remove Biden right now. Not right now. Not while he's the only one that's going through every single one of these brick walls face first. But eventually leading to where these gas companies and fuel companies have zero excuse for what they're doing to us, as well as all the other businesses. We were real close in handling the avocado problem with California avocados and other places, even some grown here in Texas. But because of the high prices and all this good stuff and taking away all of the migrant workers off of the farmlands and production lands, forcing every single American avocado crops to suffer the consequences of this, coming out of expenses and all this good stuff. All that's left of the avocados of Mexico, which are being, extorted through cartels. Everybody over here with the conservative and all this good stuff mentality is promoting that. They're allowing that to happen. Instead of keeping everything here in America, supporting everything here in America, including the migrant workers that actually pick all the produce. Because it's not American workers that are signing up to do this crap. It's the migrants. No, but the companies and everybody in the agricultural department still profit off of that. When the migrant workers were taken away, all that money that was invested into them, and I know I said this before and I'm going to say it again, all the money that was invested into those migrant workers, those agricultural companies kept that invested money while the workers got deported. And now we're suffering through that sometime later. In fact, it hasn't even been a full 2 years later when they were already going up to Congress demanding for, vouchers or some kind of financial aid. And the same thing goes right back to the oil and gas industry. You got a lot of jobs that were let go. A lot of restrictions of drilling offshores on our American waters, and a lot of restrictions against polluting and contaminating our waters and land with that stupid pipeline. And yet every single company is resorting to the deregulated countries like Guyana and any other place, where they can do as much damage as they want, providing that they've got the oil. Well, now they don't have that excuse here in the U.S. So we got to hang on to that. We got to hang on to that and make sure that they feel the pressure, because technically nobody's telling them to drop the refineries, to leave them closed. Nobody's telling them, nobody told them to fire all those truckers and stuff that are delivering oil and fuel from the pipeline or any other refinery to the variety of locations where we need it. Nobody told the companies to do any of that. Nobody told them to fire that. Nobody told them to close down the refineries. They used whatever excuse you believe to do that. The pandemic, the shutdown. America was under lockdown for only 2 weeks. More than a small fraction of time that it was needed. Small fraction of time that was applied for the refineries to get right back to work. Excuse me. And instead of doing the right thing and getting themselves back to work, rehiring all those employees, restarting the refineries, get to work on the brand new ones that they were supposed to be building. Instead of doing any of that, they're doubling down. The companies are going overseas to other countries. We're taking advantage of all of the deregulation and yet doing nothing but price gouging here in the US because of regulation. And they're saying this is all Biden's fault. While over there on the other side, they're taking money, they're taking oil regardless of whatever it is that they're doing over there. And they think that we don't see this crap. We see this crap. And somewhere down the line, it's going to come down to that vote, that decision to where we have to make a choice. Do we still suffer these gas prices? Do we still suffer the outrageous food prices? Do we still suffer, despite the fact that if we were to actually have all of those companies do the right thing and just invest what they needed to invest for their industry, for their businesses, in whichever industry that they're in, agricultural or energy, if they were just to do the right thing, none of this would be a problem. Every single bad thing that has somebody pointing to somebody else is the person that's actually causing the problem. This is a prime example of what I'm talking about. Going over to countries where there's no regulation and nobody cares because the oil is already being produced and provided for. The lashing out at all of us because of the regulations that our own government imposes. Cutting corners is something that companies weren't supposed to be doing to begin with. Deregulation, or rather, the abuses and mistreatments caused through deregulation shouldn't have been happening to begin with. The sole reason for regulation is because of those abuses and mistreatments and discriminations and everything that goes with the negativity that is now against the law. None of this stuff should be happening to begin with. So what do? Do we cave in or do we hold out? I say hold out. I say hang on. I say hold out. We're still stretching the bill. We're still making every dollar stretch. It won't be long. And I say remember who it is that's also not partaking into this. I made a joke. I sort of laughed it off with a comment of switching from udon noodles to ramen noodles. And to be honest, I'm not really sure if that's a good analogy these days, because ramen is now one of the most productive form of noodles. I haven't checked lately. They could actually be more expensive than udon or bertelli or something like that. I haven't checked lately. I should. But you get what I'm saying. we have to go to generics or the cheapest of the cheapest fares in food and all this good stuff. And we still got to make sure that we're doing the right thing as far as making sure that we're supporting good companies that are treating their workers good. For example, Tyson. I won't buy anything from that company. They sent people to work during the pandemic. They didn't give a rat's ass as to whether or not they wore masks. They didn't do anything to sanitize everything. And then to top it all off, almost every year there's food with bacteria that has to be recalled. So there is nothing concerning Tyson that I'm ever going to actually be thrilled to death about. And I strongly recommend that we all keep in mind this very same company that's producing all of these problems in the name of, hey, you want your chicken, right? Response. We got to remember who it is that's doing what, and not be fooled by any little good deed that they do from time to time, but also pay attention to what it is that they're actually doing. Amazon, I still don't shop from Amazon. I don't care how many commercials they have of Jose Lopez saying, oh, they were so good to me because I had this and that problem, and I was full of problems here, and I had that problem, and Amazon said, it's okay. I swear to God. Look, let's say that was true, that this guy went through some kind of medical condition and the company helped him out. That's still one out of thousands, if not tens of thousands, of lawsuits due to abuse of power, discrimination, sexism, injuries. There's so much crap that comes with this company. And if we don't pay attention to that, we're going to be neglecting other companies that are not this much of a problem. That again are coming up to say, look, you want our service or don't you? I would love that kind of service, delivery service. But not at the expense of other people's, misery, discrimination. That stuff is disgusting in my eyes. So I won't partake in that. It may cost a couple of bucks extra, but I don't mind going through other stuff. The U.S. Postal Service. U.S. Postal Service is very easy to deal with, but they've got regulations that they've got to check. So you're just sitting there waiting for them to go through the checklist every time. But as long as you've got that patience, you're fine. The Postal Service will also, they make themselves seem so important as they recite the rules to you when they're doing this, and they start asking these questions, and I'm only asking because of a regulation, blah, 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 and all this other garbage. If they were to actually stop doing that, you'd all see exactly what I'm talking about. It's really not bad by comparison to Amazon. But yeah, you got a lot of greed, and you got a lot of propaganda being pushed out there, a lot of rhetoric being pushed out there, and it's everybody else's fault except for the ones that are causing the problems. And that's really what I'm getting at here. You got a guy that mistakenly beats up a woman because he thinks that she's this problem or part of a problem, if not just an asshole. That part is pretty much certain. He might be. He's pleading not guilty in his defense. He says, I don't care what you say. I'm a good man and all this stuff. I don't care how it may appear that I'm this attacking sack of crap, and all this other stuff. I'm a good man. We can assume that he might be a good man, given the fact that it's already certified that he's an attacking piece of crap, sack of crap, defenseless attacking sack of crap. That part is certain, So it's quite curious as to why he would even think about going to trial and try to plead his defense, you know. And you got people that believe that they're doing the right thing. For example, the mega hatters, you know, like the ones over there that are doing this rally and stuff, calling it Freedom Fest. They think they're doing the right thing. They're doing the most discrimination. They're doing the most looking down at everybody. They're looking at they're praising the most civil rights restricted enactments. They're praising so much discriminative tactics through gerrymandering and police abuse and judge rejecting laws, enactments, you know, and it's the most really dumbest thing, but they believe that it's the best thing, you know. So you got those morons. You got the moron that attacks, you know, little old Asian ladies. You got people like corporations, people in corporations that are saying our corporation doesn't have a necessary need to help anybody here in America, despite the fact that they're helping themselves in other countries. Okay, discrimination, hate, and greed. You know, all of these things that are just downright negative. And we have to keep a weary eye on this. We have to always see what's going on. We have to see who's doing what. We have to see, you know, whether or not they belong to them or these people, organizations. It's a little tiring, I understand that, but it's a sign of the times. It's all about keeping open. It's all about keeping your eyes open and always remembering. It's good for the memory. So that's the spiel right there. I hope you all are staying safe and keeping a wary eye for that other brand new coronavirus, as well as keeping an eye out around your surroundings. We are not done with mass shootings. They just become a little bit more on the domestic side lately. However, there's that mysterious one at the campgrounds. I can't remember which state it is. I think it's Iowa, where a guy shot a family of 5, 2 grown-ups, 3 kids. I guess that would be 6. 2 grown-ups, 3 kids, and 1 little boy that actually survived. It's still a mystery as to why that 18-year-old douchebag, 20-year-old douchebag went to the cabin that the family was camping out in, enjoying their wildlife park campsite. You know, and it's still a mystery as to why that guy went in and shot all that whole family. Excuse me again. But we're not done. We're not done. We need to keep looking over our shoulders for right now. We just need to keep aware, and hopefully we'll get through the next conflict and all this good stuff. And I hope everybody out there just remembers these key little things and take care. Okay, just keep taking care, keep looking out for each other, look out for each other's neighbors, and watch out for those wolf in sheep's clothing, etc., etc., etc. It's Sunday right now. I hope everybody, at least, I prefer everybody just stay home and relax. And that's coming from me, the rideshare driver. But that's, you know, whatever the case, just stay cool, okay? We'll catch y'all later. This is Chris with Chris Comments signing out.